Hello, friends and listeners. We are proud to present today's guest, Mr. Matthew Crommett. He has a Bachelor of Science from Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. He also earned a Master's in Health Science and International Health from Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. For almost 5 years, he has been working as a director at Lyda Hill Philanthropies, an organization that aims to fund and empower innovative advances in both science and nature. Their most project is the hashtag If Then She Can exhibit, featuring more than 120 life-size statues of real women currently working in the STEM field. The first of its kind. It features a diverse group of women from over 40 states and will be open from May 15th, 2021 through October later this year. Matt, welcome. We are so excited to have you on our show. Let's talk computer science.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Excited for the conversation.
Yep, me too. Very excited. So tell us more about your work. What is your role at the Lyda Hill Philanthropies, especially right now?
Sure. So yes, I'm a director at Lyda Hill Philanthropies. We're based in Dallas, Texas, and we're a philanthropic organization that makes what we hope to be transformational advances in nature and science through grant making and investing, and all sort of around the mission of our founder, Lyda Hill, who has been doing this for years. And so If Then is one of the initiatives in our science portfolio. So the portfolio that I help to manage, that's all about making sure that we have a diversity of minds at the table as we're trying to solve some of these huge problems that our organization and so many others out there are trying to solve in the world. We believe that science is the answer to solving some of these problems, and that's sort of the approach we take to all of our philanthropy.
Yep, that's great. So, can you talk a little bit about yourself and how you got to this point and what excites you about this role?
Sure. So I've worked at Lyda Hill Philanthropies, as you mentioned, for about 5 years. Prior to this, I was, my educational background is in global health. And so I had been kind of leading a career in global health and development at places like Goldman Sachs, where they have a large economic empowerment initiative for women and for underrepresented and underserved entrepreneurs in the United States. And then at the George W. Bush Institute, where I worked primarily on a global health program focused on providing cervical cancer screening and treatment to women in sub-Saharan Africa. And now I'm at Lyda Hill Philanthropies, where I've been able to leverage some of those public health skills, but also learn a lot about new fields like computer science to help Lyda, change the world in the way that she wants to.
So can you please talk about the If Then initiative? How did it start and what's the mission and what's the purpose? What does it hope to serve? Who does it hope to serve?
Sure. So the If Then initiative aims to create a culture shift among young girls by providing them with real women STEM professional role models. And it originated a couple of years ago, but it's something we've been thinking about for many years, because in our office, as you might imagine, we see a lot of amazing scientists. We are fortunate to be able to provide philanthropic grants and make investments to people across STEM disciplines, but we felt like they weren't getting really the recognition that they deserved. They weren't really in the public discourse, and they certainly weren't showing up on social media or on TV, where the next generation is accessing content and learning about things. So we went out and tried to find an organization that we could support that was hoping to not only support and empower women STEM professionals, but also inspire the next generation of change makers, really, and really focusing on girls. And so we ended up not finding one organization, but finding very many that we could support in order to do this. So If Then is sort of the umbrella initiative that's all about supporting women in STEM and hoping to inspire the next generation. We do this through a number of, you mentioned the exhibit. That's one thing that we'll talk about a little bit later, but we also do this through funding women STEM professionals to do their research and to do their work and to lead the companies maybe that they're a part of. We do this by connecting those women to opportunities to tell their stories and helping to train them to tell their stories. And then we do this by finding different media channels for the imagery and the women to access to get their stories out there. So it's an exciting thing. It's a little bit different for our team, but we have been thrilled by the progress we've been making so far and the millions of eyes that have seen the content that we've helped produce with our partners.
How old is, like, when did it start?
How old is it then? The initiative was launched in 2019. It was launched in the spring of 2019 in a snowstorm at the American Museum of Natural History, New York. And shortly thereafter, we selected 125 ambassadors for the initiative. So these are women STEM professionals across STEM disciplines, everything from the physician for the US women's national soccer team to the computer scientist, a computer scientist who works at Spotify and helps get us, the best playlists. And so these women were selected by the American Association for the Advancement of Science in collaboration with our office and experts around the world, because they saw our call for applications to inspire the next generation and said, that's what we want to do. We want to tell our stories and make sure that boys and girls around the world know that these careers exist and that people who look like them have these careers. And so since 2019, we've been working with these women and other STEM professionals who are not part of the cohort to take photos of them, take videos of them telling their stories, put these videos on something we call the If Then Collection. That's ifthencollection.org, where thousands of these photos and videos exist, and they're free for educational and nonprofit use. And dozens of museums have accessed these photos and videos. They've changed their exhibits. Lots of podcasts have used the collection to find different women to interview. And so it's been a really interesting free resource for nonprofits and educational institutions to kind of change the imagery and the availability of these role models to their audiences. And we have just been thrilled with the traction we're seeing and the interest we're seeing in the world for this type of content.
Yep. Yeah, this is awesome content. Like, as you said, like during podcasts, we try to highlight more women in STEM. And I was talking to this lady and she was saying like in Malaysia, I'm talking specifically about computer science, but there are more women in computer science than men. And like when you talk to those women, they're like, it is very feminine job for them. What is so masculine about working on a computer science? I was like, yeah, that made me think quite a bit.
It's exactly what we're trying to achieve here. This is just their world and their life is, and maybe they're a computer scientist like Terry Burns, who's one of our ambassadors. Terry is a partner at GV, which is formerly Google Ventures, so it's a venture capital firm. She studied computer science at NYU, and then now helps determine the investments for this very large venture capital firm, focused on what are the next apps going to be, that Gen Z is going to use. And so there's so many different careers, I think, in computer science, and it's been fascinating for me to learn more about these careers and to learn more about these women who are leading them.
So can you please talk about the results that If Then has achieved so far?
Sure. And like I said, we've been thrilled. I mean, I would say one example I would say we have a couple of studies that we've done on some of our programs that have shown after a boy, their family maybe watches our TV show or reads an article that includes our women, the women in STEM in the ambassador program, the perceptions of these careers change in a statistically significant way. And that's a big goal of ours. Are we creating a shift that in people's mindsets that these are careers for everyone? So some of the numbers, because I have a feeling you like numbers, the TV show that we produce is called Mission Unstoppable. It's on CBS every Saturday morning. Usually it's at 9 a.m. in Dallas. It's different in every market. And every week, about 1 million people tune in. And so that in of itself to us is a million. A lot of them are unique viewers who are learning about 3 to 4 STEM careers on each show. It's a 30-minute show all about women in STEM. That show, if you look online, getting back to computer science, if you look on Twitch or on TikTok, we have 300,000 followers on our Mission Unstoppable TikTok channel. So whenever they post something, they're getting such incredible engagement from Gen Z on content that perhaps wasn't going to be on TikTok had it not been for this show and this digital team putting it out there. And so to us, that's a big impact metric. You know, we've done some studies with them that show every hour 1,500 girls are seeing that content, and it's all content about STEM careers and kind of making them more relatable and showing the actual woman who's alive, who's leading that career, talking about her role. To get to some of our other work with the If Then exhibit that we mentioned before, which is the first of its kind, 120 plus life-size statues, 3D printed statues of these women I'm talking about. We planned to release this exhibit last year. COVID sort of disrupted our plans, and we are actually on May 15th of this year. All of these statues will be in the same place in Dallas at North Park Center, a very popular sort of destination in Dallas that sees tens of millions of people each year. And they're essentially these 3D printed statues. They're bright orange. Each woman stood in a huge scanner, took photos of her. Then we sent it off to this sort of unique printer that could print life-size statues of them. And they've been shipped to Dallas, and they each correspond with the woman's profile on the If Then collection, which tells you all about their career and all about, and links you to their videos and their photos. And it's a nice interactive exhibit that we know will inspire so many people who see it. When we had to pivot last year, we decided to do pop-ups. So we kind of took 6 statues here, 10 statues there, and put 6 in the Central Park Zoo. Some of our conservation scientists in the Central Park Zoo, which saw more than 115,000 visitors during the pandemic, and saw who all walked by and saw these statues. And we know firsthand from people who work at the zoo that there were, thousands of conversations about, between family members about how we didn't know that you could be a large carnivore ecologist and, and if you just go and study STEM, or we didn't know that you could use drones to monitor and track endangered species, and that if you have a computer science degree, maybe that job is for you. And so it was just fascinating, I think, to see the exhibit already be in action last year. And it really excites us for what's to come this year, where the exhibit will be in Dallas at least through October.
Yep. Yeah, that is really amazing results. That's very profound. Numbers are amazing. And it's all over the world. It's not just Dallas.
It's true.
With the TikToks and Twitch and the TV show. Yeah, I'm sure the statues is going to make a huge difference. It's something you can touch, you can relate to. And so, yeah, that's really good. And Dallas is an amazing city. It's already a very tech city, so that'll be really good.
Yeah, we think so. And, the exhibit was inspired by a research study that the former Secretary of the Treasury, Rosie Rios, led, which showed that in, I believe it was the top 10 cities in the US, there were only a half dozen publicly accessible statues of contemporary women across all disciplines. And so we saw, this is a really an opportunity. And although most of our work is really leaning into social media and trying to meet girls where they are, which is on their phones often, this was a different opportunity where we said, let's make statues, because that's something that is certainly lacking. And you don't see a lot of representation in statues. So in addition to getting posters on school walls of these women and changing museum exhibits, and being all over TikTok, we thought it would be great to have a real tangible thing that people would walk by and maybe would say, I never thought about that.
Right. Yeah. Nothing would replace that. Social media, all that is needed, but sometimes it gets overloaded. So, and especially after a pandemic, I think everyone wants to go out and
Yes.
meet people. So this is a really good time. Yeah. So where is it? Like, so is it in the mall or where is it in the North Park?
So for those not familiar with Dallas, North Park Center is this huge, famous, beautiful mall in Dallas. And so what we have done is there's a courtyard at the mall, so it's the exhibit's actually outdoors. And so hopefully we can share some photos with you all after this. If you go to ifthenexhibit.org, you'll see the renderings, which will soon not be renderings because they're installing as we speak these huge life-size orange 3D printed statues that will be all across that courtyard um, for anyone who's going to the mall to pass by. And we're excited about it. There are also some indoors as well. So, so anywhere you go, if you go to the mall, you'll see them.
Yeah, North Park Mall is beautiful and there's so many people there. So it's a perfect spot. I think this is something it'll affect kids when they're like 5, 6 year old, and the results you will see all through their life. So
Well, and we thought, we can obviously place these at science centers and schools and things, but a mall sounded like a good place where you might reach
mhm.
some people who might not be thinking about some of these careers. We also put one of the pop-ups before we got them at North Park Center in Love Field Airport, which is a very popular airport in Dallas as well, which saw so many visitors despite the pandemic, and was another kind of fun, unexpected place to put these statues.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Mall sounds like a much cool hanging spot for especially like teenagers and kids. So it's really good. So, any thoughts on how the media or like generally how we as a society should change or behave to achieve the goals that if then strives to accomplish for everyone?
In general, the thesis of if then, right, is that it doesn't hurt to have more imagery out there of women STEM professionals. We did do a study with the Gina Davis Institute on Gender and Media before we launched this initiative about how women STEM professionals are portrayed in the media, and lots of findings from that study that helped provide foundational research for our work. One of which was that I think it was about 63% of STEM professionals portrayed in the media are men. And that on the flip side, we did a survey with girls, and 4 out of 5 girls wanted to see women STEM characters. So we know that there's work to be done to kind of there's no reason the media can't portray it 50-50, right, of male and female STEM characters. But there's also a lot of demand from a big audience to see more STEM characters. So we think we know that there's room for improvement in the media across film and television, and especially on social media. We're seeing so much demand for the content we're providing, and so the goal would to be just let's portray these women STEM professionals as they are. Let's find characters that show them working with their community, bettering their community, having families if they want them, having a nice, an amazing job and career. And that's something that we've been trying to do by providing access to these ambassadors that I mentioned for If Then, and to different production studios and different screenwriters, and making sure that they have the ability to bounce their ideas off of these women and try to create relatable characters. And we're seeing a lot of positive feedback on that. And we ourselves are kind of putting our money where our mouths are in creating this Mission Unstoppable show. And we've got some shows with Goldie Blocks, which is a popular YouTube channel that focuses on women in STEM, that kind of hits a little bit of a younger demographic. We also, something fun we did related to computer science was we partnered with Girls Who Code last December during CS Ed Week. And I believe it was one of the most popular social media campaigns during that week, where it was called Missing Code. So if you go to missing-code.com, you'll see this campaign still. And essentially what we did was we partnered with popular brands like Sephora and Adidas and Teen Vogue and Instagram and Spotify, and sort of broke their websites, where we essentially said, if there were not women coders in the world, the web wouldn't work. The internet wouldn't work, and these websites would be totally broken. And so we had a really interesting opportunity to partner with Girls Who Code to show, without these coders and without this computer science, your world would look differently. And, and that women and girls have a role to play to create some of the great web content that we all use every day.
That sounds really cool. So my final question, where do you hope If Then will go in the future? Like, are there any specific goals that you have in mind?
Yes, I mean, I think we just want to keep exposing more people and more of the next generation to these amazing women in STEM role models. So, and, thinking through, if we have 125 AAAS If Then ambassadors, a great subset of them have computer science expertise. And off the top of my head, I mentioned Terry, who's a venture capitalist. We have Ali Miller, who works at Amazon in artificial intelligence and machine learning. We work with Anamita Guha, who's at IBM in quantum computing and AI, and Kay Savage, who is at Spotify, that computer scientist at Spotify I mentioned. We have two women, Yamale Toussaint Beach and Katie Kwan, who use dance and inspire girls through coding to think about cool choreography with robots and lights, and women like Gracie Ermy and Ashley Podrosky, who you'll talk to, and Siobhan Grady, who you'll talk to, who are leaders in their own field at universities. Siobhan, I think, was the first woman to graduate with a PhD in computer science from North Carolina A&T State. And so I believe you're talking with her, and she's not only a professor at North Carolina Central, but she's also an entrepreneur and has a graphic design firm. So I've kind of list this litany of women ambassadors just to show that these stories need to get out there, and we're doing all we can to provide opportunities like your podcast, like different media outlets, like Becoming a Statue, to make sure that more people know these women exist, and that they're thriving in their lives and in their careers, and that it really can be for anyone who wants to consider a fun career. So that's our goal for If Then, is just to continue working hard with these women alongside them to help them tell their stories.
Yep. Yeah, that's amazing. All the women you have listed, like, wow, they're like super women.
They're incredible.
Yep. Yeah. So we need to definitely show them more, like, to the girls right now who are making their decisions on what their career should be, and make it more publicly available. So you guys are doing amazing, everything you're doing. I'm a big fan of what you're doing. Thank you so much for your time. Matt, is there anything else that you would like to add?
There's nothing else. Just if you're in Dallas, please check out the If Then exhibit. If you're not in Dallas, check out ifthenexhibit.org, and you'll be able to read all about the women who are featured, and it will take you right to ifthencollection.org to learn more. And so if there are any educators on this call or nonprofits who'd like some more assets of women in STEM, ifthencollection.org is your place to get that for free. So that's my last plug, but it's been great talking to you, and thanks again.
Thank you so much for your time. It was amazing talking to you. Thank you.